Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new installment of Know Your Talks, where we give you the opportunity to meet a different dancer from our current roster of dancers. We're doing this series to give you the opportunity to know them a little bit better besides the wigs and the makeup that you see and the incredible dancing that you see on stage. For this episode, we have the ever versatile and incredibly charismatic Joshua Fake. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Isabel. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Let's roll right in. Why don't you take a moment to tell the viewers a little bit about your training and background before you join the Trox, along with where do you come from, etc.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Hey, once again, my name is Josh Thake. I'm from a small town in southeastern Massachusetts outside of Providence, Rhode Island. I started dancing at a local school, which was just catty corner from my elementary school called Karen Gibbons School of Dance when I was just 6 years old. And it was just like an hour a week. I was doing ballet first, and then I incorporated tap and a little bit of acro jazz in there. And then that continued probably for 6 years. And then the owner of the school, Karen Gibbons, she worked with the State Ballet of Rhode Island or the Braycrest School of Ballet, which is the first school in Rhode Island. And so I started taking class when I was 13 at the State Ballet of Rhode Island, and then I got to do my first, semi-regional production of Coppelia, Giselle, Sleeping Beauty Act 3. So I got more introduced to the rigors and the discipline that comes with classical ballet. And Hertzie Marsden, Anna Marsden Fox, and Shauna Fox allowed me to accepted me with open arms and showed me what it was like to uh, take this more seriously and to develop more of a career path dedicated to classical ballet. And from there, I segued into the summer intensive with the American Ballet Theater in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and then went to the Boston Ballet School for several years. And then that was still when I was in high school, so I would be dismissed from my French class uh, 5 minutes before the last bell, and I would go take the train to Boston to go take class and then come back and do my homework and then, lather, rinse, repeat. So then after I went there for a few years, I got to audition for the San Francisco Ballet School because all of the summer programs were auditioning in Boston anyhow. So, and being a member of
Mhm.
that school, there were faculty there that were, nepotism making the world go round. And so I ended up getting accepted to the San Francisco Ballet School. And then as I was there for my first summer, I got asked to stay for the year-round program by Gloria Govern, who was the school director at the time. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, actually, it was really just like an afternoon program too, the year-round program. It wasn't an all-day event, so I had to figure out how to keep myself busy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get a few jobs, right? So, but I had to finish high school, so I went there and I basically went into the school that all the ballet students that couldn't afford to go to like the French American school or some other private school in the morning. I went to Independence High School Alternative, where I quickly found out that it was, get all of these worksheets and then you can complete your high school education. So I was the pragmatist that just said, okay, well, instead of me coming every week, can you just give me everything that you want me to do and just let me do it and I'll get it done. So in a couple months, I was done with high school and continued to search for work. So there was a local cafe that definitely worked. So people from the opera, the symphony, and the ballet would come in and they would get their morning coffee and their breakfast. So I got to know a lot of the arts community in San Francisco, and also learn how to work a different job besides just dedicating my whole time to ballet, which I think is a real crucial life skill to have, because in this art form, you never know what's going to come around. So you have to be prepared to work with the ebb and flow of everything. So actually, as I started to work for Starbucks after working for a cafe, I was doing 8:30 in the morning till 11:30 at the cafe. Then I would go take class. Then I would come back and close the cafe from 4 to 6. And I would go to Starbucks from 6:45 to 11, and then go to the gym, and then go back home, and then like repeat that for a couple weeks. So then
Making ends meet.
yeah, just it sounds like a lot, but I was so motivated and into it that it didn't seem like a lot at all. It was like it's my duty to better myself and to use this opportunity to propel me forward. So
Mhm.
when I was still working at the cafe in Hayes Valley, Peter Bredenhoff, who was a former soloist with uh, the San Francisco Ballet, he was working with a company, Ballet Grand Diva, and so he told me, "Oh, well, we're holding these auditions. You should come and check it out." So it was me and this other person at this audition, and a former truck, Brian Norris, came, and he actually came to a drag show that I was performing in. And I showed up to the audition, and I had Suffolk point shoes. They were the largest point shoe that I could find, and I had no elastics, no ribbons, and I made an ouch pouch out of a pair of socks. And then he came in, he was like, "Oh, let me see a little lies on that pirouette combination." So I got called a couple weeks later, and then I did a press tour to Taipei, and then we went to Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore, and then to Japan, and that ultimately led me towards wanting to audition for Trocadero.
Now, and that year was 2011, correct? You auditioned for the Trox around 2011.
Yeah, around 2011, October. I auditioned when y'all were getting ready to go to China. So that was like October 2011. And then I came back in November when we were slotted to go to Israel.
Right. So you've been with the company since 2011, but you were out for a little bit of time. And the catalyst of your departure was an injury that you sustained while we were getting ready for a performance. I remember vividly you coming back after that hiatus and me noticing that you had basically rebuilt your body. Your stamina was different. Your way of working was different. Your approach to what you were doing was different. It was great before, but when you came back, it was like the new and improved Josh. What was that process like? What do you attribute that to?
Well, first, thank you. That's really nice of you to say.
I think I've said it to you too. I've said it to you.
It's really nice of you to say. I think that when I first joined the company, I kind of had this unrealistic expectation for myself, and then that coupled with a lack of really understanding what my body needed as far as nutrition's concerned. I always thought that, I came from working at cafes and Starbucks. So I was into like, okay, well, I'm going to caffeinate myself a lot and then I'm going to get through it, but then not taking into consideration that like, oh, my body is a complex machine that's built up of many things, that it needs many nutrients and vitamins and minerals and amino acids in order to truly flourish. So, like I said, when I was at San Francisco Ballet School, I was working at sometimes 3 separate jobs, working at a church for childcare, the cafe, and at Starbucks. So I was on my feet all the time. So that didn't really change when I went back to San Francisco when I was dealing with the fractured fifth metatarsal, which, by the way, don't jet glue your point shoe wrong, because it will come back and you will land in a sickle from that arthrostasis and you will be out, even though you think like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be back next week. That's just not realistic, because your body's got to dig out the bone in order to regrow the bone. So, and then they're like, oh, by the way, the fifth metatarsal has the least amount of blood flow. So good luck.
Yeah, it'll take a really long time.
Yeah. And so after I went back, I found out that, living in San Francisco is not cheap. So I then couldn't afford, just on workers' compensation, to live in San Francisco on my own. So that then told me, and really was a reality check for, the value of money and how it translates to a really, really disparaged economic, just everywhere around, just having trouble with the words here, just the whole setup, and the from rent to utilities to other expenses that are just insane. They're insane. They're absolutely insane, particularly in that city. And yeah, though, it just like it. Yeah, it was really mind-numbingly humbling. So I got a job again at Starbucks because I had missed the boat. I mean, y'all had to keep touring, so hired back a few other dancers in the interim, and I still was getting, emails, getting check-in emails from you and from Tori saying, how are you doing? This is must be very challenging for you. So there was always this sense of support coming from y'all's end. So that was really helpful in being able to realize that, okay, it might not happen right now, but I really just need to take time for myself, and then I can reevaluate and go back to that when I'm ready to do so. And so I got a job again at Starbucks, and then I was working at a wine bar, and I was going from, again, like up to 4 days a week on my feet, from 8 to 3, and then 4 to 1 in the morning, sometimes, 4 times a week. So I was constantly on my feet. So thus prolonging the recovery time of my injury.
Right.
So then it was about trying to find the balance between trying to be economically stable, but then also work towards being physically able and capable of moving past this point of stagnancy. So I was approached by Brian Heinrich, who is also a former Troc, and he's in San Francisco, and he has a company called Man Dance Company, and they do several small performances a year. And so it was a good way for me to reintroduce myself to dancing again. And I had also met, when I working for Man Dance Company, I met Annie Henry, who's the executive director of Dance Theater of San Francisco, and was able to garner work when I was feeling up to it. When I still wasn't able to rejoin Trocadero because there wasn't a contract available, I was still able to work in a way to dance. And so I also had set myself up, because I'm also a creature of routine. So I knew that I would struggle with trying to get motivated. So I forced myself to do a work study program at the Daily Method, or a workplace exchange, where I did childcare for them every Monday. So I would be forced to wake up, no matter how I felt on Monday morning, I would be forced to go at 7:45 in the morning to go watch kids, or if there were no kids to watch, I would be able to take class. So it would help me stay physically active and motivated, so that I could really get my head out of a rut that it could potentially be in. Or if I was feeling great, I was up at like 7 and, going to watch kids and getting there like 15 minutes early and saying like, oh, do you need help Windexing the window? So I, it just, it was a learning curve where I made the conscious effort to become more physically aware of what overextending myself would affect, how it would affect my mental well-being and ultimately my physical well-being. And that was a really crucial moment that allowed me to re-enter my career with Ballet Trocadero in a totally different mindset.
And it paid off. Like, it's incredible, the energy output and the understanding of your body that you have, and how that manifests in performance. Along the same lines, your particular brand of lunacy, like I like to call it, makes your joke. It's true. Makes your comedy really unpredictable, really fun to watch, and really exciting. Talk to us a little bit about your thought process when you're in rehearsal and these jokes come at you, a lot of which I know come at you when you're on stage, because I have witnessed it first time.
Witnessed that
for the audience that doesn't know what that process is like, what is it like for you, that bringing that comedic aspect?
So my thought process for jokes are very fluid. They tend to be solely reliant on, and it's developed as I've been with the company, for sure. Something that I think is funny might not translate. So that's an ego check. So I think that when I first danced with Grandiva, I had the inspiration of Alan Dennis, who was also a former Troc from the 80s, and his name was Karina Grudge. And he gave me this type of, through watching him, it gave me a sense of what comedic abandon was like, and how you can give yourself solely to a character and develop it, and how to potentially translate that for the masses to understand and to laugh along with you. Then Ida Seineva, or former ballet master Paul Giesling, when he worked with me on Dying Swan, he was very patient and understanding, and allowed me to, and worked with me on how to create my own pathos. So it became more about working from moment to moment, and what is the coherent transition from one moment to the next that will lead somebody, as if you're telling them and expressing through them with body language how to tell your joke. And then, of course, Tori Dobrin, our artistic director, being able to give me a reality check of like, this probably doesn't work. Like, let's reel in a little bit, like, bring it back, let us help you. And this is a way that it can translate for an audience, and this might not be an effective way of delivering what you're trying to say. But then there's also other other things that should be taken into consideration too, like cultural traditions and influences, depending on where we're performing, individual relationships or chemistry or lack thereof. You can play both sides of the spectrum when it comes to comedy. So, and I also think that my introduction to from my mom, actually, the Marx Brothers, Monty Python, and other comedic groups gave
Right.
me a basis for understanding, and even the Three Stooges, if you want to go totally slapstick, gave me an understanding of, satire and parody, and a more intellectual understanding of what humor can potentially become.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have that gamma of performance ability when it comes to the comedy, from the subtle to the over the top. And I think it's just the way you're describing this myriad of influences and how it pairs out. It really comes across, which is fantastic.
It's just subtleties I struggle with the most. I struggled the most with the development of subtlety and nuance. Slapstick and over the top nature, I feel, is more of a natural expression for me, being an introverted extrovert. So I feel as though that was easier to delve into. But then trying to dial it back to understand that they could acknowledge a subtle batting of an eyelash or a wink or a slight turn of the head as opposed to a sharp gesture that's just like really loud, can have equal, if not even more profound impact. So that was a learning curve.
But it's always easier to reel it back in from the people that are giving you the feedback. You give a lot, and then we can see, like, take this out. It's harder when it goes the other way around. You can't necessarily ask people to add more and for it to read genuinely and effectively. So you
Right,
have
because
that.
if you ask somebody to add more, they don't necessarily know how or why or at what capacity. There are so many other variables, like I said, that go along with it, that if you don't know or if you don't have anything to pull from artistically, then you're really swimming upstream.
Exactly. Favorite piece of the Trox rec, of the stuff you have performed?
That is such a hard question, because there are so many pieces that I would love to perform, one of which being Laurentia, that I first started to learn when I got injured, and I was so excited to get the opportunity to do that piece.
You haven't done it.
That variation was so much fun, especially before they edited out the little, like, hop 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 it, turn in arabesque.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I digress. Anything that is Balanchine inspired really speaks to my soul. I got introduced to it when I was at San Francisco Ballet School. When I was at Breakcrest, Hertzy's son, Richard Marsden, is a member of New York City Ballet. So it was always something that I found especially thrilling to want to delve into and perform. And to be able to dance a female version of that, like, that's wow. Never in a million years thought that would have ever been a possibility. So I would say Tarantella, definitely got the opportunity to dance that. Never in a million years thought I would dance that role. But then Raphael Moore was like, oh, hey, you know this. You want to do it? Yeah, sure, you can do it. Okay, cool. So I would say Tarantella for sure. Stars and Stripes, again, another Balanchine parody, super energetic and cardio. I'm also kind of masochistic, so like the harder it is, and the more rigorous it is, and the more tired I feel, the more accomplished I feel, and then the more satisfying that masochistic cycle continues. So I would say anything that revolving with those is definitely, but also getting to dance Basilio and Albrecht, those are also challenging roles, and they were also extremely rewarding. So I've been so privileged to have danced so many roles that I never thought that I would ever in a million years get to dance if I had gone for a traditional ballet company, which thankfully none of them wanted me anyway. So
it's their loss, 100% their loss.
Yeah, it was just too much of. I think I was told by a teacher that, well, if Bejar was still hiring, he liked your string bean type body type, so you would have been in luck. But right now we're looking for linebackers, so you're out of luck unless you want to go back to Starbucks and start lifting those gallon of milks like dumbbells. It's just like, well, okay, I guess it's not going to happen then.
hardest thing about the job?
Working for a touring company, the hardest thing always changes. It's always different. I can't give you a definitive answer about what the hardest thing is, because there are so many different challenging aspects of constantly being on the go. When you show up to work on the road, you're on, right? So you try to rest, you try to recoup, you try to, save and conserve your energy. But the hardest part could be traveling one day. The hardest part could be the performance that night. The hardest part could be even waking up and being on a bus. But I always try to interrupt that anxiety that I feel with gratitude, and I try to and I try to realize that I could be having had other job experiences that are more less artistically satisfying jobs, made me appreciate even those days where you have a performance at 8 and you got to wake up at 4 to go to the airport, because I could still be making lattes. I could still be watching kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. But getting the opportunity to do this is truly a gift. And for me not to acknowledge that because, it's a little bit challenging, that would be disrespectful to people that don't get this opportunity. So it's like you won the winning lottery ticket. You won the golden ticket to go to the chocolate factory. Like, the schnozberries taste like schnozberries. Go lick the wallpaper. Life's a banquet, and most people are starving to death. Like, you got made. So it was really yeah, it's been a wild ride.
And so then what is the most valuable thing you've learned as an artist in the Trocadero?
How to be accepting of all people. How to how to be aware of different cultures and the way different people live their life, and experiencing it firsthand and translating that to how can I apply things that are obviously working and making people happy elsewhere, or things that other people struggle with, and maybe we're not aware of it, being in the United States. Maybe I'm not privy to that experience. There was a recent percentage that I read that said 80% of Americans didn't have a passport, and I thought that was just so mind-numbingly what. The travel is the ultimate learning experience, an eye-opening experience for you to understand cultures that you would otherwise only get through a Hollywood filter. So it's I would say that, and I wrote down notes because I'm very scatterbrained.
Oh, by all means, show all the notes. Show the viewers your setup for preparing for this interview.
Because I am terrible with bullet point interviews,
Staying
and I only
method.
work with like streams of consciousness, and I will get off on tangents, and I will just we'll be here for hours, and y'all got stuff you got to do. So, and I appreciate you taking your time to get to know me a little bit better. But I would say that
most valuable thing you've learned as a touring artist with the Trucks.
It was definitely to get back to like the golden ticket of going to the chocolate factory, getting the golden ticket. So many young male dancers will look to this as an opportunity for them to be able to chase their dreams that they didn't think were possible. Like, being an artist of Trocadero is like you are a underdog success story. You come from places where you were told maybe you would not succeed, or that this was not possible for you, and then this is a platform where that is possible for you, and you can it's not only possible, but you can thrive in this environment. So I think that it it really it also makes me aware of like rolling with the punches, right? Because like nothing will be nothing like an airline strike to be like, well, let go and let God, right? So and I thought that I would already.
You were already that.
Right, but
you already had the rolling with the punches, though.
But it only made me, it reinforced that that intention and that innate ability within myself. So I'm very grateful for that, for sure.
It's been a few months since we've stopped touring, and everybody else, as we know. What are you doing to keep yourself in shape physically and mentally? I see a beautiful garden behind you. I'm sure you're doing plenty of things.
Yay! There's some corn finally. Yeah, when this all first came down, it was intense. It was really intense. I I'm a pragmatist and I try to be an optimist, but I'm also within that optimism. I'm very much a pragmatic realist. So like, don't confuse my eternal optimism with not understanding of the magnitude of like the state of the world, right? Because I recognize that I want to be happy and I want to spread that gratitude and sharing in that and want people to share in that. Um, but when this first happened, I went into hyper panic prepper mode. I was like, holy crap, okay, we can't leave for 2 weeks. So I got to make sure that I go back to my mom's house where I stay. And I got to make sure that she has all the supplies. We have all the supplies that we need so we can be set just 2 weeks. And I'm 6'2", so doing ballet and yoga in the house maybe isn't an option. So it was still cold. There was still a lot of residual cold from the spring going into the summer. So I had some foam fatigue mats that I set up in the tile shape, and then stacked 2 benches on the deck to give myself a bar for the first couple of weeks, at least until I could get some sort of centering
Something.
and acknowledgement of like, okay, this is what it is what it is. This is what it is right now, and this too shall pass. But for right now, this is a way to that I know I can come back to this if I need to release or vent physically if nothing were to change. And then I had so many projects and other things that I had already had slotted for working on the house. So I spent the time immersing myself, and I hand scrubbed the exterior of the house, stained the house, and then I was building the garden up. So I took out the old garden boxes that my father had put in about 20 years ago, and it was a very wet spring. So then the garden was keeping me busy because it was like another infestation upon another infestation. It was first earwigs, then it was Japanese beetles, then now it's cucumber beetles. So it's an ongoing learning process, but it's incredibly grounding. And I'm an earth sign, so I love that. I love being able to take something that's tangible and physically watch it grow, and being able to be there to nurture it is also a life skill. So I'm trying to take this time to develop other life skills that I did start to learn when I was a Boy Scout, way back when.
Mm-hmm.
So like survival skills, learning how to tie knots, learning how to build things. Uh, I want to go to become, like OSHA certified so that I can use that and I can probably take that to another job that I could have down the line. So I also like to sew. So I'm setting up a sewing room. So there's sewing machines that I can keep myself busy. So I'm trying to do all the things that I can do outside because living in the Northeast, we experience all 4 seasons. So I'm trying to do all of the outdoor activities that will prepare me for um, next year, as well as preparing for the winter time, which I'm very all about. Prepare for the winter, get your canned goods, get your 14-day
Sure.
supply of non-perishable. Don't wait, do it yesterday. Like, you don't want to be waiting in line with all the people wondering if you're going to get what you need. Dry milk, coffee, canned goods, canned meats, canned veggies, canned fruit, anything you can get your hands on now, do it, because it's only going to, I hate to say it, but it's only going to get worse. So just prepare for, that's another great thing that Trocadero gave me, was the ability to understand contingency
That it
plans and
will.
worst case scenarios, because you can't you can't not look at a worst case scenario. It doesn't mean that you aren't a positive person by acknowledging worst case scenarios. Just like
Correct.
it doesn't discount your hard work to admit you have privilege. Only allows people to see through that and to create a propulsion of a paradigm shift that creates a more equal world.
Amen. Josh, thank you so much for taking the
Yes.
time to chat with us.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome.
Um, I'm going to tap you for final thoughts in a second. I want to remind the viewers what I've been reminding on every episode. The cancellations due to the pandemic have greatly reduced everybody's access to revenue, all artists and arts organizations alike. If you like what you're seeing, all of this free content, and you can donate to any organization of your choice, please do so, including the Trox. We're rolling our information in there. There's our Instagram handle, for Joshua's Instagram handle. And yeah, stay in touch and stay up to date with what the trucks are doing. Josh, any final thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I think everybody should love each other. Love blooms where kindness is planted. If we all follow that mantra, just imagine the beautiful planet that we would all be a part of. I think that everyone needs to read more. Go to abebooks.com, and it is a database where it is a database of used bookstores all across the United States that also are affected by this pandemic. You can not only get the same literature that you would get on Amazon for full price, you can get here for pennies on the dollar. So why not support a small business and buy from this database? You can learn how to better yourself, how to become your own Jane Goodall, Gore, Noam Chomsky. Be the change that you want to see in the world.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you, John.
Donate.
We're gonna leave you with a clip of Josh dancing in Don Quixote. He was one of the gypsies, and it's a perfect combination of his.
Wait, I have to get some viewing material. I have to get some popcorn. Hold on.
Okay. We're gonna leave you with a clip of Don Q where you will see his particular brand of lunacy mixed with his incredible dancing. Enjoy it, watch it till the end, and keep on trucking. Bye, love.
Bye.